9:00 a.m. Guess we do the roll call.
Director Clement,
Here.
Director Cox,
Yes.
Director Wilkins,
Present.
Director Hansford, here, and President Wilson.
Here. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And with that, does anybody have any public comments before we move on? Seeing no public comments in person, do we have any in written or online, Michelle?
No, sir.
Okay. Would any of the directors like to make any changes to the agenda?
I move approval of the agenda.
Second. Motion by Director Wilkins, second by Director Cox. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Now I believe it's Vicki. We have professional achievements, awards, anniversaries, and acknowledgements.
Good morning, President Wilson and directors. Beginning from Human Resources Administrator. And as we do on a monthly basis, I would like to acknowledge staff that have achieved some certification requirements as well as a promotion, and that would be Nate Lyons from the Operations Department. And Nate, I just wanted to, as I said to you just a minute ago, I believe in my time here at TTSA, you are the only individual who has gone from operator in training to operator 3 with nothing in between. So I just wanted to acknowledge that achievement and your promotion, therefore, to the operator 3. So great job, Nate. And if someone else has achieved that during my time here and I've forgotten them, then I apologize for that. But great job, Nate, and not a small feat, so good job. Thank you.
Nate and I just want to thank you for your commitment. That's a big leap. So I think a lot of people can learn from that. Thank you. With that, let's move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone need to pull any of the consent agenda items for discussion?
Move approval of the consent calendar.
Second. Motion by Director Wilkins, second by Director Cox. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And now we move on to the approval of the regular board meetings for May 21st, 2025.
Well, that was actually covered in.
No, I'm sorry, that was covered. Thank you.
So we're on the public hearing.
Thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
Public hearing for public comment related to the board's consideration of adopting resolution for the 2025-2026 actual billing reports and approving billing and collection of charges on county tax rolls. Let the record show that we will open public hearing at this time, 9:04, to receive any public comments related to the board's consideration of adopting the following resolutions of the 2025-26 taxable billing reports. Would anybody like to make a public comment on this item? Were there any written or online? Okay, thank you. Hearing none, we will close public comment time at 9:05. Moving on, approval of resolutions for the 2025-26 annual service charges on county tax rolls. In the interest of time, as in previous years, I recommend to approve all 3 resolutions for sewer service charges at once if the board is in favor.
I would make a motion that we approve resolution 7-2025, 8-2025, and 9-2025.
I'll second.
Motion by Director Wilkins, second by Director Cox. Rochelle, I believe we have to do a roll call.
Director Clement,
Yes.
Director Cox,
Yes.
Director Wilkins,
Yes.
Director Hansford,
Yes.
and Director Wilson.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, now we move on to the presentation and public hearing for public comments related to the status of agency employees, vacancies, and recruitment and retention efforts as required by Assembly Bill 2561 GC 3502-3 and presentation of AB of that bill and will report. Public hearing. Let the record show that we have no public comments on this one. Vicki, I believe you are up for the presentation. Is that correct?
Thank you again, President Wilson and directors. Effective January 1st of 2025, AB 2561 went into effect and requires public agencies at least one time per year to report the status of job vacancies, recruitment efforts, and retention efforts in a public hearing before the governing board. In calendar year 2024, TTSA performed recruitments which resulted in 6 new employees. Half of those recruitments occurred due to promotions of existing staff, which had occurred in 2023. TTSA currently has 4 vacancies, which include the safety officer, the CMMS GIS technician, E&I technician, and information technology specialist. Recruiting for the safety and compliance administrator, which is previously the safety officer, will begin this month as soon as we go through our approval process. While the CMMS GIS position, E&I position, and IT positions are technically vacant, there are no current plans to recruit for those positions, and the agency realizes cost savings as a result. TTSA offers competitive salaries and benefit packages, as you are aware. We face similar challenges with each recruitment, which includes the cost of living in the Truckee area, concerns related to driving and living in an area which requires a lot of snow generally, and the increased desire for remote and/or hybrid work depending on the position. We currently and recently amended all job descriptions, as you are aware, the salary schedule and the organizational chart. And on an ongoing basis, we review agency policies and procedures. Staff recommends that the board comply with the public hearing on the status of the vacancies, recruitment, and retention efforts at TTSA, and I can answer any questions if you have those.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah.
At this time, we'd open the floor to receive any public comments. Doesn't look like anybody's here. Did we receive any written or online?
No, sir.
Okay. Hearing none, we will close the public comment at 9:08. May I get a motion to receive and file AB 2561 annual vacancy rate report?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Director Cox, second by Director Wilkins. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And now we can move on to the consideration and approval of the appointment of Jason Hayes as the interim general manager. Vicki, I believe you have
Thank you, I did. As all of you are aware, our current general manager, Richard Palante, will be retiring in August of 2025, and he will be taking some vacation leave in July and August. And the board recognizes the need to appoint an interim general manager. Jason Hayes has already been working out of classification for several months at the direction of our current general manager. And at the direction of the board of directors, Jason Hayes has agreed to work out of classification beginning June 29, 2025 as the interim general manager. Staff recommends the approval of working out of classification assignment to Jason Hayes as interim general manager with an effective date of June 29th, 2025.
Thank you. Jason, before we make the motion, I just personally would like to thank you for your hard work on this. It's definitely shown a lot of positives to us. And at this point, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the appointment of Jason Hayes as the interim general manager.
I'll make that motion. I do have a question though. So it wasn't clear to me what is being done for compensation. So, the staff report said fiscal impact based on salary approved for working out of class. What's plain English? What does that mean? I know that would be making more money than he currently is, but what are we talking about?
Jason will receive a step within the general manager classification position. I believe it is slated at step 1
Step one.
currently, and again to begin on June 29th of 2025.
Okay.
Still doesn't tell us the dollar. Is that what you're asking?
What's that?
You're asking dollars, right?
Dollars and where he was going to fall. My understanding is that the bottom of the GM salary range is currently above the amount it's above the amount Jason was making in his current position.
That is accurate, yes.
Okay, so it basically puts his compensation within the GM salary range for functioning as the interim GM.
Correct.
And that was the GM salary range that was advertised in the recruitment, correct?
That is correct, yes, and will become effective on June 29th.
Right.
Hence the effective date of this appointment.
Thank you. Do you need a number, Bert? Is that
No,
what
I
I heard?
I don't need it. I thought Dan needed it.
Oh, okay.
I'll second.
Okay. And that's all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
But
Aye. All those opposed? Unanimous. And Vicki, you're still up, and can you please update us on the direction of the GM recruitment ad hoc committee?
I most certainly can. As, again, you're all aware, CPS HR Consultants was retained by TTSA to provide recruitment services for the general manager search. A total of 43 applications were received. 11 applications were screened further by the consultant. Of the 11, 5 individuals were recommended to move to in-person interviews. Those interviews occurred on Monday of this week. And at the conclusion of those interviews, it was decided that 3 individuals would be brought forth for the entire board to interview. Those interviews will take place in a special meeting, closed session, which will occur on Wednesday, July 9th. Any questions on that update?
just curious from the Scott and Bert's perspective, your kind of impressions of the field of candidates that you interviewed.
We had a pretty wide range of experience and both in terms of jobs and length of jobs. I was very impressed with the people that we did interview, the final 5. And I really believe that the 3 that we chose will bring, many of them will bring positives to the organization going forward. And, one of the challenges that we kept front of mind was in the next 7-10 years, we've got some big projects going on, and it was important to look at people with the experience and the capability to see those projects through. And a couple of the ones that we interviewed, we thought probably did not have that potential. And so that was one of the key things. Bert, I'd like to hear any comments from you.
Yeah, I think I made my comments clear to the team after we did the 5 interviews that fortunately we didn't check every single box we wanted in our requirements document of quals. Mainly being having somebody that's constructed a $250 million plant didn't meet that. There were a couple candidates that had some NBR experience, but frankly, very small operations, nothing at this scale. So that would be my one concern and caveat that I would make to the board as you interview candidates. You know, you kind of have to make that leap of faith of what consultants and other people need to be attached to to those folks over time, which, you know, would have happened here probably anyway if we didn't have the GM. So, yeah, I'm not shocked, but at the same time, we do have some very solid candidates.
Yeah, and to dovetail on what Bert has said, one of the things that continued through my mind during the interviews was that we have a staff in place right now that I think did an extremely good job with the sodium hypochlorite project. And I think having the capabilities of staff will really help whoever comes in to manage these things through. So,
Yeah, and I think we're going to see some great performance of the existing staff. They're going to step up and really do the job. So I'm not that concerned.
I agree.
Who else sat on that interview panel? Two of you.
Brad Johnson from NTPUD, and I'd like to thank Brad. He's a terrific guy, and he did a great job. And Vicky also sat in, as well as Pam. I forget her last name, from the consulting.
Boy, I'm drawing a blank on
Yeah,
those.
from the consulting.
Derby, I believe. Pam Derby from.
And they had provided a list of questions, and I think their screening was pretty thorough. And I do agree with Bert. It would have been nice to find somebody with MBR experience on a much larger scale than what we did. But having said that, I think the three candidates are going to, all three of them are going to show well.
Yeah, great.
Great.
Thanks to you guys for putting the extra time in on this.
Oh, it's a marathon.
Yeah, and kudos to Vicky for keeping everything on communications and everything. It was a tough one. I think I can say for both of us, we're kind of glad it's almost over. Yeah. So
And then just logistics on the Wednesday, the 9th. I know I've got a meeting on my calendar. It was, I think originally was showing for the whole day. Have we set those time slots yet, or are you still working on that?
We have not. The consultant is supposed to contact those three individuals, let them know that they will be performing a background search on them, and then setting up those interviews, but we haven't been updated on that information yet.
Okay.
I can follow up on that and email you guys to let me know.
Good.
And gals
Maybe you remind me, are we doing reference checks first or after?
first.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
And will they provide a list of questions for the board members like they did in the first?
Potential questions that you can choose
Yeah.
from, certainly I'll ask for that too.
That'd be great, because a lot of the questions, I was thinking about this coming in this morning, a lot of the questions could be very redundant to what we asked them before. So we need to make sure that we don't go down the same track.
Right,
So,
okay.
and Bert, thank you again for your work on that.
And just maybe a couple comments, just thoughts off the top of my head in terms of questions. Got experience dealing with personnel issues. I'd be interested in kind of getting some insight into experience in those areas. Kind of dealing with the kind of the regulatory environment that we work within, and kind of background and experience and so those are a couple of areas I'd be interested in, and then talked about NDR already.
Yeah.
And then thoughts as to how they maintain organizational culture, maintaining high morale within an organization. So it's questions kind of geared in those areas would be some questions I'd be interested in seeing.
Okay.
Vicki, it might be helpful if we were to meet like 15 minutes beforehand or so that we understand kind of the order of, are we asking questions sequentially? Are there particular questions that particular directors wish to ask in their just a little bit of lead time so that we're ready for
Okay,
interviews.
and we did do that for this past round of interviews, but I will certainly share that information. And I would say it's very likely a given, but I'll follow up with you guys. Okay.
And we were also able to give the list of questions that we had, I believe the Thursday prior.
Correct.
And we did add one in particular that we thought was, so I would hope that we can get those questions early enough so that the board can let you know if there are any other questions that may not be there that we need to ask.
And we also did provide to the panel members the resumes ahead of time also, so that that could be reviewed.
Yeah, it was actually a really good packet that came prior. So, thanks. Great. Okay. And Rochelle, question here.
Yes.
We're supposed to move on to the resolution accommodation of Director Tresson.
Correct.
He's not here.
Still, we through or
We can-
the commendation,
Okay.
to approve that without him present.
Okay.
And he is scheduled to attend our.
Okay. So. We have an award for him, but since he's not here, we can move on with the approval. And I'd like to read the resolution amending Blake.
So if you want to, you can also review the staff report. I think we have Richard.
So we would move the staff report forward.
The staff report kind of reviews.
Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
let's do that.
So for the board is a resolution honoring Blake Tresson for his service on the board of the Tahoe Truckee Sanitation Agency. Blake was appointed in November 2017 and served until May 2025. And during that time frame, he served both as vice president and president. Was very active with the current projects going on as he toured some of the NBR facilities with staff. So before the board is a resolution honoring Director Tresson for those years of service and wishing him well.
Thank you. And I would just add that he was also driving force on the finance committee. He brought a lot to the table in his capacity there. So,
Founding member for sure.
pardon me?
Founding member.
Yes.
So I would make a motion that we approve resolution 10-2025.
Second.
Motion by Director Wilkins. I'm sorry, keep calling him by my last name. Second by Director Hanson. Roll call, please.
Director Clement,
Yes.
Director Cox,
Yes.
Director Wilkins,
Yes.
Director Hansberg, and President Wilson.
Yes.
Motion approved. Wilkins Wilson is tricky, isn't it? How do you understand?
So this is the part where we read the resolution, correct?
Or you can review the staff report also.
Okay.
Actually, I wrote it with Josh presenting. Josh is there, but you are more than welcome to read the staff report.
I'm sorry.
You can read the staff report if you like, or your own version of it, but it's just a review. It's a summary of the resolution without going for work, but you're welcome to read the resolution.
You said Luke could too?
Josh.
Oh, John, where is?
Josh is with us. I gotta take him up on the other thing. Can you hear us, Josh?
Yes, I can. Would you like me to go ahead?
Yes, now we can see
Yeah.
you. Thank you, John.
Okay. So this resolution, number 11 to 2025 is for the commendation of General Manager Richard Palante, and I think it's appropriate to read the resolution as Board President Wilson was proposing. Would you like to go ahead and do that since you're present, Mr. President?
I'd prefer if you did, Josh.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. So, resolution number 11, 2025, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Tahoe Truckee Sanitation Agency, commending Richard Palante for his dedicated service to the agency. Whereas Richard Palante was employed by the Tahoe Truckee Sanitation Agency from April 9th, 2018 until his retirement on August 10th, 2025. Whereas the Tahoe Truckee Sanitation Agency Board of Directors would like to recognize Richard Palante for his over 6 years of service in which he diligently fulfilled his responsibilities as Maintenance Department Manager from April 2018 to June 2022, Interim General Manager from June 2022 to November 2022, and General Manager from December 2022 through his retirement, serving to ensure the economical and efficient operation of the Tahoe Truckee Sanitation Agency and to protect the integrity of the agency's water reclamation plant and Truckee River Interceptor, and to protect the public health, safety, and welfare. And whereas the Tahoe Truckee Sanitation Agency Board of Directors would like to express its sincere thanks and appreciation for the outstanding service and dedication Richard Palante has provided to the Tahoe Truckee Sanitation Agency, its staff, and the people of the community. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Tahoe Truckee Sanitation Agency as follows. Number 1, the Board of Directors of Tahoe Truckee Sanitation Agency hereby commend and extend its sincere appreciation to Richard Palante for his outstanding and dedicated service to the agency. The board also wishes to express its appreciation to Richard Palante for serving as an integral part of the wastewater treatment plant facilities staff, assisting the agency in maintaining the Truckee River Interceptor and for its repair and rehabilitation along the Truckee River corridor, and for his involvement in the agency's sodium hyperchlorite project and planning for the upcoming digester improvements and nutrient removal projects. Number 3, the board and staff of the agency wish Richard a long, happy, and productive retirement. And assuming the board votes for this, pass and adopted by the Board of Directors of the Tahoe Truckee Sanitation Agency on this 18th day of June. And I will send it back to you, Mr. President, for the vote.
Thank you,
And I'd
Josh.
just like to add, if I could real quick, I wasn't able to work with Richard for very long, and I'm sorry I can't be there today in person, but I have enjoyed very much working with Richard. He's very conscientious. He's a great guy, and I'm sure he'll be missed by everybody. I know I will miss him.
Thank you, Josh. Yes, Rochelle.
Sorry, before you ask for a motion to approve or
Right.
further comments, I wanted to note that there is an error on the second paragraph where it says Richard Palante for over his 6 years of service. It's actually 7.
Cool. Thank you.
News count.
Albert.
Before we vote, would there anybody on the board like to make any comments regarding Mr. Palante?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. Richard, you came on as general manager at a very trying time in the history of this agency, and you knocked it out of the park. The respect that you got from the rank and file, from the staff, and from the board is unprecedented. And I just want to let you know that I really appreciate what you did for the agency at a very critical time in our history.
Thank you, Dale. I'd add to that really when you joined us as the maintenance manager, that was tricky transitional time for us as well in the maintenance department, where there was, I think, say my assessment was morale was low in that portion of the organization, and there was definitely some personnel issues as you had to deal with recently. Richard joined us from another agency. That can be a tricky spot to come into as a outsider. And what I saw there was very, really over a 6-month time period, maintenance department was, the morale had done a 180-degree change. There was, I think, much more pride of ownership coming out of that department, and the experience that you brought from other agencies and kind of alternative ways to approach problem solving and dealing with issues, I think was very beneficial to TTSA. And then follow up on Dale's comments, you took that same skill set and got to apply it all over again when our former general manager departed on short notice, and where you stepped into that role and kind of showed leadership across the organization. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Yeah, I would like to add a few comments. I came on board of directors, and one of the first votes that I cast was to promote you to general manager. And in hindsight, that may have been the best vote I ever did. So I really appreciate that. And another thing is that we all represent different organizations and agencies, and immediately upon you becoming general manager, word got around through the general managers of those agencies, and without a single person not saying Richard's going to do a great job. And you have shown that. You've done a tremendous job. And on a strictly personal note, I think you are a better person than you are a general manager, and that's a high bar. So thank you for everything you've done.
Thank you. And thank you, Josh, as well.
So we have a motion, and you gave the second, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So with that, I think we need a roll call.
It's Director Clement,
Yes.
Director Cox.
Yes.
Director Wilkins,
Yes.
Director Hansford, and President Wilson.
Yes.
Motion approved.
And if I can, President Wilson, just thank you to the board for the opportunity. It's been a challenge, but it's been a lot of fun. I think the agency's heading in an exciting direction with the nuclear removal study coming to the final stages, as well as going into RFP for design and all that stuff. It'll be a fun time to watch, and I'm glad to be able to stay in touch with people and get to continue to hear how the agency grows and moves ahead. I think the agency's made some big strides. It's not just, I appreciate the accolades, but it's not me. It's the staff that have responded to everything and seen a brighter future. So thank you.
And Richard, I know you don't want to come up with, we have a little something for you, sir. Thank you very much for your service. Now, I believe, Liz, you are up. Review and approval of the financial results for the month ending May 31st, 2025.
Nothing like talking about math after that poignant moment, right? And technology will be on my side in just a moment. We'll be pulling up the chart I completely failed to deliver last month with the monthly financials on it. We'll go through that quickly and then we'll talk about the budget. Yeah, good.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still looking at Josh and I didn't see it. That was my fault. I'm like, I don't see it yet. I've got your numbers. Technology is now on my side. Good morning, board members.
let's talk about the monthly financial results as of May 31st. In your packet, you have the financials by fund as well as a cash statement. These charts are designed to illustrate that information in a quick snapshot. And if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them at the end. Taking a look here, we're nearing the end of our fiscal year. We're 95% of the way through. Looking at our Fund 10 revenue, we're about 95%. So we're projecting to come in just slightly under. And again, projections we'll cover in the next presentation. Same story for Fund 2 on the revenue side. It's about 97% right now. So we're trending right along with that here. We have seen an uptick as we're entering into that busier construction season from earlier in the fiscal year. We also received our May teeter payments. So that helped to boost our cash. Well, maybe we'll go to the next slide. Oh, maybe not. I mean, it worked a minute ago. What a broken technology.
Okay, now.
Here we go. I'll just keep pressing all the buttons. Don't tell Luke. Let's shift to the expenditure side of the house. And again, the expenditure side of the house shows all three funds. We don't talk about Fund 6 revenue necessarily in here because it's driven by fund interest, not actual charges. Taking a look at Fund 2, at the end of May, we were about 82% of the way progressed. I do have a little history with year end in this agency, and last year we saw quite a few invoices come in at the end of the year. Sometimes June 30th is a surprise for people. So we're starting to rattle those cages. I do anticipate just slightly under our budgeted amount for expenditures in Fund 10. For Fund 2, we're about 26% of the way expended. And for Fund 6, as we've talked all year, we're only about 7% of the way expended. But what I'm going to spend the next 30 days on as we go through the end of the year is what are those items that we anticipated spending cash on in FY25 that we now need to rebudget, as I'm calling, and move it into 26. We're not adding to the project, we're moving the timing. So we need to see which invoices are able to come in, and I'll bring that information back when we do the June results. Before we talk quickly about cash, I wanted to point out two answers at Finance Committee related to expenditures on the warrant through Fund 10. There was a question about some RAV4 purchases. There are 2 new vehicles to the agency. We did confirm that those were the snow tires, switch tires out for this event. And the tool purchase that was made, that's ongoing vehicle maintenance shop upgrade. It was an anticipated expenditure that we just saw come through on the warrant that month. Before I touch on the cash chart, are there questions about revenues or expenditures for the month of May? Let's wrap this up. Here's the cash balance. We're still in the money. This chart is showing that we have enacted our rate increase. Fund 6 has also had less anticipated spending. We still have to get through the end of the fiscal year, though. As I noted, those invoices are coming in, accruals. Sometimes the fact that you have to book it in the appropriate fiscal year surprises some folks, especially vendors. So we'll work through those results when we bring you year-end results. Okay, the recommended action before you right now is approval of the financial results for the month ending May 31st.
Any questions from the board?
The finance committee looked at all the stuff.
Yes. Yes, in detail, yeah. Down to the snow tires.
Down to the snow tires.
Floors.
Move to approve?
Okay, motion by Director Cox, second by Director Hansford. I believe we need a roll call.
Actually, not for this one.
Oh, not for this one. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approved. And now we move on to the big one.
Move on to
FY
the budget.
Draft budget.
Yes. And again, as probably the wordiest person in the room, I will work to keep my words focused on this and not go into too many rabbit holes. No guarantees, though. We did have a robust conversation about this last month. We've also continued the discussion at Finance Committee. So my plan today is to illustrate to you all what changed, talk about the addition of Table 18 where we look through our cash flows, and then we'll take a quick look at what next steps are for this process, okay?
So as a reminder, when I was here last month, we noted that this budget is the next step on the roadmap for the agency. We're undertaking the most ambitious capital project in our history, and this investment into our and our ratepayers' future is designed to modernize operations and pave the way for lasting improvements. That's what resonated in my mind as we went through this budget preparation process. As we embark on this journey, we continue our time of transition. FY24 was a time where there was an open key finance position. We're going into this and we're having a changing of the guards with the general manager. So this budget supports transition while being mindful of the uncertain economic times that are out there. It'd be nice to have a crystal ball this time. And to keep up with those changing times. So those are really the methodologies and thought processes that went into building this budget. The first thing that I changed in your presentation is I got the date right. Not that anyone actually looks at the footer but me, but apparently I thought the meeting was tomorrow. So in this version that you see online right now, we have corrected that. The projections overall have been updated. The last version of this report only had actuals and projections from those as of March 31st. I've updated all of the categories through May 31st and refined some of those projections. Where we have known year-end adjustments, I also included those. Did the best I could to look into the crystal ball. So that takes us to a budget of $39.8 million with the assumption of the $8.2 million, almost $8.3 million in reserves or outside funding that's necessary. During last month's meeting, there was a request to relabel Table 1 so that we could identify where our actual revenue came in versus fund interest. So when you see the blue items, those are items that I changed based on feedback from this group. So I put together Fund 10 and Fund 2 because that's where our service and connection charge revenue is. And then the other funds really just generate fund interest from the monies that are in the bank account assigned to that fund. Any questions on this slide?
This is what we wanted, correct?
Looking at Table 2, this wraps up our general fund revenue. Not too much changed here. I will point out that our other revenue projections are much higher than the budget because we had $123,000 in surplus equipment sold. While we anticipate from time to time selling it, we're never sure what we're going to get. So you can see I did not increase the budget very much for FY26, even though we anticipate selling some, just the price is unknown. Questions about Table 2 before I move to Table 3? Table 3 takes a look at our wastewater capital reserve fund, and there was a big yellow highlight here last time. So what changed on this is that $1.9 million budget. There was about $55,000 added to it, and that is to account for the engineering news record, construction cost index inflator that is anticipated to be affecting our rates on January 1. In September, a staff report will come to the board talking about taking care of making these changes, and we'll have to go through the ordinance process again. So it will be brought to the board for approval. I also wanted to note that the assumption for our sewer connection charges is based on a growth rate of only 210 EDUs per year. And in prior years, the budget was lower. In FY24, it was about $1.1 million. In FY23, it was higher. It was $2.1 million, but we only delivered about $1.2 million actuals on it. So it seems like we've right-sized it as well as accounted for that cost increase for it. Are there any questions on the wastewater capital reserve fund before we move to the next tables?
Just this, how many EDUs there were projected in that?
210 for growth.
And what we have had a study done, and that 210 is the average of the last 10 years, I think, something like that. So
We've had a lot of conversations between the board and finance regarding the exact number of EDUs to use in this calculation. And so that's an ongoing conversation for finance committee. Taking a look at the next slide, I housed two tables here. It really is the fund interest that we anticipate to see from both of these funds. One item that has changed from last month's packet is I reduced down the projected cash coming in, fund interest for Fund 6. I related it to actual cash I anticipate coming in the door. So I do think we'll be slightly under budget, but for these certain economic times that we've had lately, we're still doing great. Okay, let's take a look at the general fund expenditures. You'll notice that there's another blue line here. Part of the conversation that we had in the request from last month was to pull out the retiree medical expense. I did take it from each department budget and place it into the administrative department budget under HR, since it's a mechanism of paying bills. But I wanted to be able to illustrate this information here. So of our entire employee benefits, $860,000 was budgeted in FY25 for retiree medical. And then it carries across the chart. You can see what's projected for 25, and you can see that $1 million, which is that 16% increase for FY26. And that increase assumes a 15% calendar year increase for the medical expenditures for calendar year 26. Once CalPERS reports what the increase is, we'll come back and talk about that in future budget to actual conversations. Are there any questions on this slide before I move to the next? Okay, I did provide some additional information based on some of the conversations that we had in this meeting as well as Finance Committee. There's a cost increase justification in the upper left-hand side to just kind of give you an idea of some of the categories that impact that increase in overall labor. The class and comp study year one is about $600,000. There's $450,000 in new positions. The COLA in this scenario is about $210,000. In other scenarios, our labor budget was higher, so we talked about the impact being a little bit higher, but this is tied directly to how I budgeted the labor. There is an additional change. There's a vacant operator one position in the operations department that will not be filled. And so that was actually a savings that was brought to that line item. There is also an expense though. There's a net impact of operator threes changing classifications to senior operators, and that comes at a net impact of almost $32,000. In the blue box below that, I wanted to highlight the cost of the new positions. I know earlier in this board meeting, it was also noted that there are 4 vacancies currently, and that could drive potential cost savings until we fill them. Those 4 positions together are about $520,000 in the budget. They are budgeted at top step and in a series, specifically for like the E&I tech, they're budgeted at level 3 instead of at a lower level since we have an open position.
I've got one question on that. On the vacant operator one position, that includes salary and benefits?
Just salary,
Just salary?
just salary, top step.
Thank you.
Other things that I just wanted to note as I was looking through the numbers related to salary, the salary projections for this year, we did have 6 months of a vacant finance manager position for the first part of the year. There was also an IT position that was budgeted and not filled for the entire year. There was also a vacant engineering position for over 6 months of the year. So that's why you'll see projections a little lower. I realize it's hard to tie the two together with implementing class and comp, but I wanted to give you a little more additional information.
Liz, why do you show step 6 on this? Just because you don't know what step they'll be at?
Correct.
Okay.
I budgeted for worst case scenario.
I like this.
Thank you. The next slide, I wanted to illustrate a little information about budgets. And I realize that one, I like colors, and sometimes I make charts look like eyesores when you're trying to look at the legend. But the takeaway is to look at the big colors. I wasn't intending for you to get caught up in the weeds of this chart, but really what I wanted to show with this is that retirement and medical, whether it's a current medical or retiree medical, are our biggest benefit expenditures. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, but when I saw it laid out like this, it made me go, interesting. Let's see what I can note about benefits. A few things I will note is that pension in total, whether it's classic or PEPRA, is slightly under $1 million for the budget. And I did take a look at the actuary report and look at actually what 50% of normal cost is plus what the 4% employer pickup is for the classics. So there may be a little disconnect between last year's budget and this year's budget since I used that methodology. It should align with the payments. That's the point of the actuary.
What makes up the Medicare? Just curious.
I believe that is the employer's portion of paying Medicare for payroll. If that is different, I will report back.
I get it.
Any other questions on the benefits slide? Okay, table 7 has been revised from your packet. I failed to pull out the blue line from the totals. Just when you think you've validated all of the cells in the workbook, you find out that you have not when your packet goes out. So I have validated these numbers. They do tie to all of the other tables now. Again, the blue line was just not reduced from the actual department totals. That's the only change to this slide, as well as identifying the retiree medical expense. Question before we move on? Again, I pulled out retiree medical. I followed that methodology for everyone and for every department. In this table, you will see that the $1 million expense for FY26 is entirely embedded in here. So that will fall off the charts for next year in the other departments. Worth noting here, we do have one vacant position, that's the safety position, and we have one new position, that's the administrative assistant position.
And I do appreciate the total FTE. Makes a little more sense.
Do that and make sure that stays. So highlighted in the blue box is just that conversation that I had earlier for the overall expenditures that highlights the vacant operator position and then the operator 3's to senior operator classification changes. There were a couple of questions that came up specifically about chemicals and solids hauling. They are in the contractual services line in this department. Chemicals are approximately $1.7 million of the FY26 budget, and hauling is $361,000. We are projected to go slightly over the line item hauling budget, but not over the department budget for 25.
Mind if I just ask again, let's go back a little bit. On the vacant operator 1 position.
Sure.
Is that staying vacant because other people have been promoted in classification and we don't need to backfill it? What's the reason?
I'm going to defer to the operations department manager for that answer.
We were having issues bringing new people in, and we had a chance to bring an extra staff member on, and the board approved going over our normal FTE. So basically, we're just readjusting back to our normal FTE because we were one over.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just, I think the way it's written, so it's not being filled implies that it's going to be filled in my mind.
We have no
There's no need for it.
no need for it
Okay.
to me to.
Other questions before we move on to the chemical chart? Again, an illustration to show that over time, chemical costs have increased, or the actual expenditures related to chemicals have increased, but the makeup of how we use them has changed. There was a question that came up through Finance Committee wondering what vendors we procured our chemicals from. Thatcher, Roy Smith, Univar, Penco, and LaHoist. I might be wrong on that last one. LaHoist. Always throws me out when there's an L and an H together to start the vendor name. But those are the vendors that we procure most of our chemicals from. You can see that sodium hypochlorite came on.
If I can just share the thought in that is, if we could consolidate vendors, we could probably leverage the consolidation. The problem is, as I've been told by staff, that they all kind of handle their own thing, so the consolidation is not available. So.
Came with grandiose ideas of a chemical consortium, and then I went, oh, not here in the trees. Got it. The next chart, again, is an illustration of our utilities by year. The point that I was trying to hone in on, which shouldn't, again, surprise anyone here, is that electricity is our largest part of our bill. The rest of them are very, very small components of that. So that's the giant orange bar that you see in the middle of that. And again, goes up over time.
I do have a question on this one. And if you look at the projection in 2025, it's the electricity is actually lower than 23 and 24. And I'm curious, does that have anything to do with any changes we made? Or is it just?
It shouldn't. I'd have to look back to see why that changed.
I think it's an accounting function. Electricity is one that we generally accrue.
Okay.
So when someone was doing the projection, if they didn't pull out against the accrual in times and divide by the right amount, it could be short 1 month.
Okay. The other reason I was thinking about it was that there were increases in electrical.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
We have been able to balance that. Operations also manages, there's another chart that I've seen related to it about what we paid this time last year and what we got for it. And so there have been some shifts of usage, intentional or just happening, where we haven't seen that huge spike in the actual budget because we've been able to work through that.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at an expense that's 1.2 to 1.3 million a year, that stands out.
Some differences too can be in the spring.
Mhm.
If we have higher flows because of I&I, that can actually impact for a couple of months, that can impact our power consumption because we have to run more pumps, move more water. And if we have a relatively dry spring, we can see a reduction for 2 or 3 months of power bill. So that can affect it too.
Great, thank you.
Taking a look at the technical services department, again, that houses engineering in the lab, and beginning FY26, information technology is moving there. So we can blame IT, Luke, for some of the increases. There is a vacant IT specialist related to this. There are also 2 new positions that were added to this, the engineering tech and the lab tech as well. We pulled out retiree medical here as well. And a few things to note, engineering department is housing $100,000 extra for FY26 for some office cubicle movement that is anticipated to happen. We have the digital scanning project that's included in professional services. Utilities and supplies and repairs and maintenance have been impacted by IT. There is a replacement hardware program that's happening, and there was $20,000 added to the budget for 26 to take care of that, as well as $30,000 in unforeseen and unanticipated things we have to react to related. Okay, the maintenance department. Again, maintenance, E&I, and the warehouse lives here. They have 2 vacant positions, a former CMMS GIS position and an E&I tech. The one item I will point out here is for supply repair and maintenance. You can see that we're requesting more than we're projecting, but we are requesting less than we budgeted last year. This is an ongoing effort to take a 3-year average run rate, apply that, and then adjust for known things for the fiscal year that's upcoming. So now we're going to turn our conversation to capital unless there are questions on the operating side of things. Okay, at this point, I'm going to phone a friend and I'm going to invite our soon-to-be interim general manager to come talk about progress on the CIP book, and then we'll dig in a little bit more into it.
Good morning, board. Liz asked me this morning if I wouldn't mind coming up, giving a little brief description of what the progress is looking like, what the plan is for moving forward on CIP. There's been a lot of discussions about prioritization and why would you create a prioritization system when you're not going to even fund anything in priority 2. The answer to that is that we do not currently have a CIP book that is any kind of workable, usable position. So we acknowledged about a year ago, well, Liz was first coming on, that typically you would have 2 living documents that would exist that would support each other. You would have a CIP book that would discuss all of your R&R expenditures and your capital improvements, and you would have your operating budget book, and then you would reference. Well, we didn't have that, and it was acknowledged pretty early on that we needed that. Problem was we were right in the middle of a study that was likely to either modify or eliminate a large portion of the projects that had been established by the master plan that was given to us in 2020. So currently what the process is looking like, we're meeting a few times a month with a lot of the key staff in the agency. We are identifying projects that need to continue to live regardless of what we end up doing with MBR, because there are some. What projects need to be wholesale eliminated because we've made the decision to go with the new technologies, and when the timing and what the cost will look like for those projects. So we're actually going to have a publishable book that will have a page for every project. We'll have things like timing, funding sources, key infrastructure impacts, costs of failure, all those kinds of things. And as we progress through this process, what the intent would be that within specific windows of time, we will have different levels of detail for those projects so that when it goes into the budget, it can be 1 year of budget that actually reflects intended monies to be spent. And it'll be the supporting documentation. And the hope would be that if and when, say, circumstances came up, spend rates has been a big discussion this year on Fund 6. We had a ton of projects. When I first took over as technical services manager, the direction was get projects going now. We had a period of time where projects hadn't been happening quite at the same frequency. So there was a handful of projects that were get them done now. And so with that urgency, we punched a whole bunch of money right into a short-term CIP plan. And well, we overguessed. We're not going to spend that money in the year that we anticipated. Trust me, we will spend that money. We will not spend it in FY26. Obviously, we're not going to meet that. But we're getting better projections now on when we can expect that money to be leaving the facility. So that will get more accurate, and we'll have a better picture of when you start looking at the priority 2 projects, the things that right now we do not have an identified source of funding for those projects. Those projects, if they are urgent, if there is a nexus to safety, if there is a nexus to operation and compliance, they will get bumped up, they'll get appropriately timed, and they will be, a funding source will be identified for them. So this is kind of a big lift. We're intending to have this done by the end of the calendar year. We would like to propose bringing that book to the board for approval probably in the January, February timeframe, so that when we are having the discussion next June or May about the operating budget, we'll have a clearer picture on how the capital impacts that budget, and we can have a lot better discussions about borrowing and where the strategy lies on that process and how we begin the process of getting MVR to happen. So does that answer any questions, or did it create new questions?
I think the CPI book is going to be an incredible tool for us. Having not had it here before, I think that that's going to be part of the pathway that we go. It's going to direct us in the right direction. So I applaud you for that. And as I was looking back a year ago at the June 2024, I noticed that we were talking about the CIP book. So just looking forward to it. Dan?
Yeah, just a comment. I mean, I think the CIP book is a different way of presenting. I mean, we've always had a 5-year CIP, and that's been incorporated in our budget.
That's correct.
Financial planning.
Yep.
I think really what we're talking about is an improved method of presentation of that information.
Yeah, and we, as you guys were acknowledging earlier, we went through kind of a tumultuous time, and there was not a ton of knowledge transfer during that period, and for reasons, doesn't matter why. But a budget book offers the opportunity to provide documented explanations to ourselves for why was this postponed, why was it deemed no longer necessary, why did this other project supersede it, why was it folded into a larger project, those kinds of questions. Because right now we're looking at master plan, which is 2018, 2019 reality timeframes. COVID happened. Now the study has happened. The methodology has shifted dramatically, but we don't have any real substantial documentation that shows, why is this project not a high priority right now? And it's like institutional knowledge, tribal knowledge, we all know, well, that's not going to happen because MVR is going to happen now. But what we really want to have is a documented, trackable, 10 years from now, someone could retrace it and say, yeah, you had this project identified in 2025. It never happened, but here's the explanation. So kind of an internal usefulness there as well.
And you also talked about the nexus between safety and basically emergency.
Yeah, there's going to be some attempt, and we haven't really identified what level of support we're going to need from consultants. It's not going to be zero, I will tell you that. Cost estimating is difficult now. We're getting word that it's gotten better, that they're more willing to stick to somewhat reasonable cost estimating. So likely a part of this effort is going to be reaching out to consultants and getting help with good, solid cost estimating. And likely what the cycle will be is we will identify say 5-year, we'll do as much as we can internally to scope that project. When we start approaching 3 years out from the original intended date, we're going to take some consultants on board to allow us to do preliminary design reports on those so that we have an actual functional, hit the ground running, know what the timeframes are so we can kind of budget that money appropriately. And, a lot of this plays into Liz's dynamic for timing on borrowing in the future. If she knows that within 3 years we're going to be spending $800,000 on a rehab of X, Y, or Z, she can then model that and understand, well, okay, that means we will be borrowing then in FY28 or whatever. Right now, I feel like there's some work to be done to get her to the point where she can start making those estimates.
Yeah, that's just really what my comment was going to be, is that this is a really critical time to get the planning, the CIP timing, and the projections for what kind of debt financing might be needed. I think one question I had was, do you want to work through this with the Budget and Finance Committee, or how would you like to, kind of present this to the board and get feedback on it? Because I think there should be some kind of working group on it, and I'm really interested to kind of see how this goes along.
I cannot confirm or deny that maybe the word study session has been thrown around between Liz and myself. We would love to start incorporating that. And I think that would be an excellent opportunity for that when, when staff has done the initial legwork to create the course, and then having it prior to it coming to the whole board, having a study session where maybe some designated members of the board are participants, where we can kind of give our rationale, give our logic, hash that out a little bit, and, provide some of the supporting documentation before we take it to the greater board. That would be ideal for us as well.
Yeah, and I really like the timing. I think it's really good to have your CIP ironed out ahead of when you're going into that budget cycle as well. Would really help this.
That's the operational phrase. We want to help Liz.
I need to close a few tabs. I've also seen this document used in prior places that I've worked. It's a planning document, so when you go to the rating agency and you say, I need this amount of money for these 3 years, they still have a great picture of what's coming down the pipe, because you don't want to say, hey, we're going to do this $300 million project in this 5-year window, but then 2 years later, there's this other project we didn't tell anybody about, right? So that's where you can talk about that in the CIP, and that's where some of those priorities come from, that, hey, we can have a conversation with the board about this wish list of priority 3 projects. It never makes it to a budget conversation. It's in there in case we need to move it around or we decide we want to reprioritize it. Having it housed in here just adds a little bit of confusion. Because to a point Catherine made, I think last board meeting, we're budgeting for projects that we genuinely don't think that they're going to have any money in this year, but still trying to preserve those rates right now.
Yeah, and another added benefit of it is the level of the opportunity for staff to be engaged in this process. I think, a lot of people are accustomed to the engineering department creates a thing and distributes it, and it is what it is. And then there's some level of, they don't know what they're doing. They've never been out in the field. They just design stuff. This has been a great process. We meet in here, and it's basically the entire leadership team. And it's a great conversation because it's like, why is that needed? Oh, because of this. And, oh, okay, I get it now. Or, less likely, the opposite. I still don't get it, but we can hash those things out. It's a good opportunity. You can see people getting excited because they recognize that their level of engagement leads to a higher likelihood of it being funded, which leads to a higher likelihood of it actually happening, which is exciting for the staff. So, good. Thank you.
Thank you. I like multi-people presentations, obviously. Okay, now we're back looking at charts. So in your packet, at the very end of it, there was a list of project names and project descriptions. As I'm sure you noticed, sometimes the name and the description are the same. Sometimes there's a little bit more information. That CIP book will help solve that problem. But here today, Table 12 lists the 5-year plan for each project as it's listed by priority. Nothing changed on this chart from our last conversation. Same story for table 13. It's just a much longer table, so I have to put it on multiple slides. But for priority 1, the only change is that we added a B&R backwash return for $20,000. It's that very last item in FY26. You also noted that I put a bar and I say cash flow timing to be determined as we get through the nutrient removal improvement project MBR. Maybe we'll get a shorter name. As we progress through that this year, we'll know what our cash flows are coming or what they're expected to be. I would have swagged any number that was in here, so I chose to just highlight it that we need more information on that. In the priority 2s, there was a yellow highlighted placeholder for about $350,000. We've allocated that out now with those first 4 projects. We also moved the skater repeater replacement out from 26 to 27 from your prior chart related to this. And then we wrap up table 13 with our final priority 3s in our table. I was not anticipating going over any of the project descriptions unless there are questions. Okay. Let's wrap it all up and let's stop talking. I only have like 5 more items. So here's our total Fund 10. The top has our revenues, the bottom has our expenditures. It takes us overall to an 11.75% increase for our expenditure budget, including the UAL. Again, as we noted, there's 4 new positions, there's 4 vacant positions. This one does say 3, I didn't update my chart. It's because I forgot the person who reports to me is vacant. I kept missing it for some reason. Questions on Fund 10? Okay, wrapping up with Wastewater Fund 2, this lays out our revenue, our priorities, as well as our anticipated debt payment. Our debt does retire in FY27, so in addition to this payment, there is about $3.5 million that's due in FY27, and then we sunset our debt. For that piece. Same story for Fund 6, the revenue, the priorities, and the piece of debt payment that fund pays. New for this presentation is everyone's favorite table 18. So this is revised from the packet because again, I had a math error. It's great news though. We're not ending the year in $17 million cash. We have 30. I forgot to grab the beginning balance of Fund 2. So let's walk through this chart quickly together. I'm going to start with Fund 10. The very top number is what our fund balance was as of May 31st. It ties to the report in your packet. The next number is what I anticipate to have cash in the door. I'm very conservative about that. I do not love projecting cash. It makes me a little nervous. Our projected expenditures are also balanced in the next line to take us to a projected fund balance for Fund 10 of about that $17.9 million. The FY26 target balance, which is 60% of our fund expenditures plus the UAL, totals almost $14 million. We have almost $4 million over that target. So this chart is indicating there is some money over the target balance that Fund 10 can deposit into Fund 6. As you go down the rest of that Fund 10 line, you can see that we have an adjusted beginning balance, anticipating us making that transfer, our budgeted revenues, our budgeted expenditures. When we get to talking about Fund 6, we had the same conversation last year. Target balance for Fund 6 is supposed to be 50% of the 5-year CIP this year plus the next 4. That's $35 million based on the CIP right now. We cannot meet that target. Luckily, it's a self-imposed target and not a regulatory compliance item. So I took the same logical approach that I did last year, where the amount that I am saying is the target balance for Fund 6 really is the first year and next 4 years of priority 1 only. It also equates to the first year budget. So we try to cover both ends that way. I do anticipate if Fund 6 expenditures go at the rate that they are budgeted, we'll see. Last year, one of you laughed at me when I said that, so we'll see. We'll see how it goes this year. But I will be coming back in the middle of the year requesting a transfer. It most likely to be in January after we receive our teeter payment cash. And that's what that $8.2 million transfer between funds mid-year indicates. That's what would be needed if we see the full expenditure for Fund 6. Fund 2 follows the same logic. It's a good story. Fund 2 has plenty of money. It ends the year with plenty of money. So I won't go all the way down that chart. Let's talk a little bit more about Fund 6. You see the glaring $18.5 million. That's what the fund needs to have. We can take the 3.9 transfer from Fund 10. We can also, there's an overage in Fund 7, the Emergency Reserve Fund. The target balance is $4 million. We received fund interest throughout the year, so I would recommend that we take that overage and transfer that into Fund 6 as well to mitigate that $18.5 million that's necessary. As you go down Fund 6, that FY26 adjusted beginning balance is the sum of the almost $400,000 that's anticipated to be left if we had our spending. The transfer between from Fund 10 of $3.9 million and that transfer from Fund 7 of the $133,000. That's how you get to that $4.4 million beginning balance in Fund 6. I said a lot of words and I said a lot of numbers. And unless you look at this chart regularly, I get that it can be confusing. So let me make it short and sweet. We don't know where our pools are going to come in for Fund 6. When I come back with the June results, I will bring this chart back with actuals and I will have the recommended transfer. This is me projecting how I think the year will end. I would like to have the year end, see how much we actually eat into that $6 million of anticipated cash out the door. I'm not naive to the fact that spending $6 million in like 3 weeks seems impossible, but that's housing and holding the assumption of those re-budgets as I talk about where I'm going to move budget from this year into next year that isn't there yet. That accounts for that change. So an updated chart with June 30 actuals and the recommended transfer will come to the board next month.
Okay, when do we change the policy?
So the policy is in its draft form right now through the Finance Committee, that giant binder that I left you with last time. And the documents, those go together. And so I will bring that conversation back to Finance Committee next month and we can revisit that and start talking about what would be appropriate. As a preview, one of the items is to look at projects that you'll fund outside through debt financing a different way. Don't include them in your target fund balance. So we can have that conversation on Finance Committee.
I think with the CIP book, you can get away with a lot more than that probably.
Don't disagree. Go. So the good news from this chart is that through projections, I anticipate we'll end FY26 with about $30 million in the bank. A good story to sit in front of the rating agency. Questions on table 18 before I show you my favorite charts ever?
Mountains and houses.
Mountains and bars. Come on. Everybody loves the mountains and bars. I will make you love this chart. For real. So I updated all of the numbers that we just talked about and I threw it into the cash flow projection model. Again, the bars are our money. It's revenue that's anticipated. If there is a bar over the mountain in a year, that becomes your beginning balance next year. You have that money left over. So the green mountain is operating, the brownish green color is capital, and then that tiny, tiny slice of dark green on the top shows that our debt retires in FY27. The thing that I want you all to pay attention to is see where the orange drops below in FY27. This is a chart I look at every single month, and this is one of the indicators for me on when we need to issue debt. This is telling me that if we continue with our spending plan as is right now, in about 6 months, we're going to be having a debt issuance conversation or some type of outside funding. You can see that it's a small amount, so potentially cash flows will change related to some of those projects. We'll continue to talk about it. I wanted to show this just for some centering. Last April was the first time I showed this chart to this board, and that's the item on the left, projections as of April 2024. That was information I took right out of your rate model, and that showed that by about FY27, we thought we were going to have to issue some debt. Then we changed some things around. We looked at projections differently. We took the FY25 CIP and I laid it in those projections as of December 2024. And look what happens. We didn't actually run out of money until FY20 or FY30 in that scenario. I wanted to illustrate these two charts to show you, hey, we thought we were somewhere in April of 2024. We got some new assumptions. It changed. We just went right back. It's not a new radical world. We just went right back to the world that we were in before. So I wanted to show that illustration. And again, when the bar falls below the line, we still have $4 million in emergency money that is not considered in this. I only looked at Fund 10 and Fund 6 revenues for this. We could potentially borrow from ourselves from Fund 2. We could look at other fundings. That's a conversation that would come back to Finance Committee and the board with analyticals and leave a recommendation for you to choose from. Oh my gosh, is she done talking? Yes, I'm super close. Last slide. The fiscal impact. The FY26 budget assumes $31.6 million in total revenues from all funds, $39.8 million in fund expenditures. Approximately 8.3, I rounded up, million in reserves and or outside funding are anticipated to balance this budget. Again, if Fund 6 doesn't see the spending pattern that is anticipated right now, that outside funding amount will change. Ongoing conversation. I wanted to remind the board again, the fund transfers will be presented to the board in July because I'll have June actuals. The recommendation before you right now is to review and approve the FY26 annual budget. I will also let you know that the complete budget book with all the words and the prettier charts will be available in August. I need to wait until we close the books. The budget award component that I'm going to go for in 27 requires that we have actuals. So I need to wait until that's done to compile the book. So review and adoption.
Liz, any questions from the board?
Lot of millions.
Lot of million.
We're talking a lot of millions here.
We are indeed. It doesn't look like there's any public comments. So at this time, I'll entertain motion to adopt fiscal year 26 budget.
So moved.
Second.
Approval by, or motion by Director Cox and second by Director Hansford. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved.
Thank you.
Do we need to take a break at this point, or
Appreciate it.
let's take a break at this point? Back in 5 minutes.
All right.
Let's resume.
Welcome back. Thought you all might want to hear more words that I have to say. I'm here to talk about the wastewater capital reserve fund budget and making the related findings. So before you, there's a resolution that notes that there is $18.65 million in Fund 2, the wastewater capital reserve, as of May 31st, and that the FY26 budget of $1.7 million can be contained in that monies. That is all I have to say about that.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
Questions from the board? No. I guess we'll entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 12-2025, revising the wastewater capital reserve fund budget. So moved.
Second.
Motion by Director Wilkins, second by Director Cox. And I believe we need a roll call on this one, correct?
Director Clement,
Yes.
Director Cox.
Yes.
Director Wilkins.
Yes.
Director Hansford. And President Wilson.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Thank you, Liz, and you're up again.
I'm still here. I have not gone back to my seat yet. The next item is Resolution 13, 2025, that establishes the appropriation limits for fiscal year 25-26 for FY26, as I have been calling it through this presentation. The FY26 limit is $4,591,000. Let me try that again. $4,591,621. So the motion before you is to approve that resolution.
Any questions from the board? Yes.
I was wondering if you'd be able to provide like the worksheet that shows that in future years when we do it, just for transparency. I know a lot of audits contain it at the end of the year, but I think it's nice at the beginning of the year because we are making a decision on the budget to understand the appropriations limit and to see what kind of qualifying expenses, debt service, and things you have in there as part of that calculation. I'm fine with it today, but I would like to see that in the future.
Thank you. We'll make sure that that's included. We do have it out for this year's calculation, and I'm happy to send it to the full board after the meeting. Thanks.
Any further questions from the board?
I've moved that we approve resolution 13-2025.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion by Director Wilkins, second by Director Cox. Michelle, I believe we need a roll call on this one.
Director Clement,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Hansford.
Yeah.
And President Wilson.
Yes.
Motion approved.
And I believe Richard, you're up.
So as mentioned last month, we received a letter of interest from the school district. So before we boarded a resolution authorizing the general manager, or in this case, interim general manager, to enter into discussion with the school district regarding purchase of TTSA property. Recommendation would be for the board to approve the resolution allowing those discussions to take place.
Questions from the board?
Yes, comments of it. It's basically the property they're currently leasing from us for like $500 a year or something like that is what they're interested in, and possibly some additional land adjacent to that.
Correct. Unknown how much additional land, there's no further discussions have taken place yet. The letter did express interest in some addition.
Okay.
In the land adjacent to it, can you clarify that again, where it would be?
Unknown, just because we don't know what they're interested in. There could be, if it's a small amount, there's room to the back of them. What they're leasing currently, or to each side, just depends on how much they're looking.
Okay.
This is basically authorization just to get a conversation started with them.
Right.
Correct. So we can pin all that down and then bring it back to
Okay.
ad hoc into the board.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the board? Having none,
That's me.
entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Director Cox with the motion, Director Wilkins for the seconds. And I believe we need another roll call. Oh, no, we don't. Yes, we do, yeah.
Another,
I've got too many notes on the page.
lots of resolutions today. Director Clement,
Yes.
Cox,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Hansford, yes, and President Wilson.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Richard, I believe you're up here.
Again, LAFCO is requesting nominations to fill a vacancy for the alternate member seat representing special districts. So I'll bring that to the board for discussion and see if they would like to nominate anyone for that position.
Sure. So this is the alternate seat, which I believe is a person who, if there's a board member absent at a given meeting, the alternate takes their place. I believe is how that works, and has voting authority to do so.
I'm quickly scanning their letter to see if it does not say exactly, but we can research that.
Yeah. So there's like, I don't know, like 100 plus special districts, I think, in Placer County, that any one of them could be submitting nominees. I think having LAFCO representation from districts up here in Eastern County is helpful. I did speak to President Wilson prior to the meeting, see if he has any interest in serving on the LAFCO board as an alternate. He said he would be interested in that. I don't know if there's any other board members up here who have interest in it.
I'm the door Scott.
Yeah, I've talked to Judy Friedman and said I'd throw my name in the hat as well as necessary. My understanding is there's a lot of momentum down the hill, that there'll be a lot of movement to try and get the alternate from down there now that Judy's a permanent member on the.
Got it. Yeah, 'cause they were, when Judy was up for election for the full board seat, I know there was a number of folks in Western County who were not opposing her, but running for that same seat. And fortunately, Judy put in quite a lot of effort, quite frankly, in contacting other special districts to solicit their support, which was great. So it sounds like we've got two board members who are potentially interested.
Scott, I'll defer to you. You go first. I'm good.
Okay, yeah, and I think you hit it exactly on the head, is that unfortunately there's the division between East and West, and Brad Johnson, the NTPUV general manager, came to me after the interviews on Monday and asked if I would be interested And I told them I would be, and I do think it's critical that we do everything we can to get the representation on the eastern side of Placer County that we possibly can.
Yeah, so the other piece of this, for everybody's information, is there's this movement, right, in North Tahoe, right? And LAFCO basically has to vote on that over time. So there's this dichotomy of, okay, do I want to be on that, or do I want to go lobby to get it done and then, move it in that direction that way or not? And I think that's some of the issue of being up here and being as the alternate or not. Is that the best use of resources or not? But that's for everybody to kind of decide on their own.
Right.
Yeah. Right. And I will say that Sarah Coolidge, who's been the president up until this last year at NTPD, was interested in it, but she's also working extremely hard with the incorporations, and she felt that there could be a conflict of interest. Yeah. So it's important, and we definitely want to represent the eastern side as much as we possibly can.
So, something I'm curious about either Scott or Bert. So, sounds like both of you are interested.
I'm going to let Scott do it. I was just throwing my name in if nobody else was going to do it.
Were you interested?
I got plenty of other.
I'm not. I'm only curious if there's any other nominees from other boards.
Up in the region?
Yeah.
None that I've heard of, but it doesn't mean that there couldn't be.
I heard that there was somebody at the airport board that was either on it or interested.
Yeah, I don't know.
There was, it's just something rings that, that there was somebody over there that was interested in.
Because I think any special district can.
I know we just voted on it here a month or so ago, and I do recall somebody at the airport being, having their hat in the ring.
Interesting.
So when you put the nominations forward, then how is the candidate selected? Do we know that?
Yeah, I believe it's, and I'll just based on past experience, each special district gets a vote. So once the slate of candidates is identified, then each special district can vote for which candidate they want to support. I believe is how that works.
So that's after
Exactly
the
right.
nomination.
Yeah, I believe, doesn't it, you have the letters that come from the individuals of the qualifications and they want to achieve. Then that comes back, and I believe the last time we voted on it, we got a series of letters for those individuals that we chose from.
Yeah.
Do you remember it that way?
Yeah. So there's like an application package and kind of background information to every special district. I know what Judy did was she put quite a lot of time in terms of contacting representatives from all the special districts up in our region to make herself available for one-on-one meetings to kind of encourage them to vote for her. And she did the same thing with Western County special districts. And there's quite a few like tiny little fire districts and other special districts in Western County. And it's one district, one vote. It's not weighted by whether you're a special district serving 100 people or 10,000. So my guess is that it would probably take that kind of effort by someone like a candidate up here in Eastern County to actually get selected as the alternate.
Right.
So I don't know if you're game for that kind of effort or not, Scott.
I'm retired, so.
Yeah, but it's been a lot. Because a lot of times in the past, it's been more of a yawner, right? It's like be 3 or 4 people throw their name in and throw a letter in and kind of let it play out as it may. And now we've got this, because of the incorporation conversation, there's a little more interest in these LAFCO seats than there used to be.
Yeah, I think the fire department issues too are getting more intense, like the Meeks Bay annexation and the North Tower fire. That was part of the LAFCO discussion. I see more and more of that.
Right.
So yeah, it's definitely getting a lot more activity.
Yes.
Right.
And I think it would be wise to speak to Judy and get her
Yeah, she's got good
experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can sit back and get your campaign hat on, go out and hug babies and kiss mothers.
Hug babies, I love it.
So with that, I would make a motion that we nominate Scott Wilson to be a candidate for the Internet seat, Placer County, Glasgow.
Second?
This is very uncomfortable.
No,
the next part. That's all in favor.
So would it make sense for us to send this over to Alpine as well to do a special meeting to nominate him? Or we can, once he's nominated, we can wait till the next phase? Because I know Tahoe City has their meeting on Friday.
Yeah.
That you guys can vote on
Yeah.
for that. I'm just trying to figure out procedurally if that would make sense or not.
I think by us nominating him, I mean, we should check and confirm, but I think by us nominating Scott, that he would then go forward.
Okay. As a candidate.
With left,
As
with left.
a candidate.
Yeah.
We should confirm that.
Okay.
And then I think I don't know if there's like a process like for before the vote for other districts to endorse. I've never heard of that. I think it's just, it'll come back to us in a couple months for a vote.
That's what's happened.
And I think this is how that will work. Perfect. Yeah. I do think it would be worth communication out to the other special districts, especially our member districts that we've nominated Scott. So if our interest is trying to get a candidate from Eastern County, we don't necessarily want 7 candidates from Eastern County competing against each other.
I can send out an email to all the member district GMs, let them know this motion today.
Yeah, that's great.
About the board meeting summary for all the clerks.
Yeah.
The next day, so tomorrow, when I send out that summary, I can
Yeah.
let the clerks know that we did that, if they're gonna be voting this week.
The other thing that might be worthwhile is if there's if there's folks from other special districts that we find out are also very interested in this from Eastern County, it'd be good to identify that. And I think there could be an opportunity for Scott and maybe whoever those other individuals are to talk about whether they want one or two of them want to drop out, or kind of again, so we're not competing against each other.
Yeah.
And I don't think that creates a Brown Act issue. I think that kind of stuff.
I think it'll take a little bit to sort that out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, in the past, it's usually like, is anyone willing to do it? It's like, no,
That's what I'm doing, Scott.
not doing it, not interested.
Yeah.
That's an important.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now we move on to the department reports. Michael, I believe you're,
Yeah, Richard, it's the last minute. You're gonna make us go. Morning, Board of Directors, President Wilson. Dina. So for the Operations Department report for last month, the plant performed well through the month. We met all our waste discharge requirements, and we received notice of the complete report for the waste discharge from the Lahont Water Board for our new board members, just as a little bit of a catch up. Back in what we applied for this. So our waste discharge requirements, the last time that they were updated was 2002. And typically they should be done about every 5 years. So there was a lot of language in there from our last expansion that we wanted to have revised and make sure that we had a current and updated wastewater discharge report. So we put into Lahontan to revise that and go through it. And they gave us notice of an incomplete report, so they needed some more information, and that's kind of what kicked off our fate and transport study that we worked with Jacobs to receive. We've now gotten a notice of a complete report, so they're going to be moving forward with revising our waste discharge requirements, and they have an anticipated administrative draft as of December 1st of 2025 is what they've anticipated that they'll be putting that first administrative draft out so we can get a look at it. So anyway, any questions on that part? That was a pretty big thing for us.
Just a comment, that took a long time, just the process.
Yes. Well, and a lot of it was the fate and transport. You know, it took time for us to go through that study. So we're going to
23 years later.
Now, we're talking about revising our WDR for the plant.
Yes.
And just off the cuff, and I know you can't commit to it, Mike, but we're not really anticipating that we're going to get any more stringent of a WDR than what we maintain right now.
I mean, we don't know. We have Lahan's going to go through the state. The state's going to have their input, and Lahan will have their input. We'll see if that has any impact on the WDR. It may or may not. It's really hard to
Because at this stage of the game, as we negotiate a design phase with our MVR, I think that our waste discharge requirements are going to play an important role in how we're moving forward with Corolla.
And that is a lot of what pushed us to start this process. Is we wanted to make sure we had good, clear guidance on our WDR, which, you know, in a few years from now could change again, depending on what the water quality and on the river. I know that they dropped off the nitrate off the 303D listing off the Truckee River, but the phosphorus is still on Martyrs Creek is still an issue, so that may impact our WDR. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I wouldn't anticipate lowering our waste discharge requirements, but raising our WDR would be an issue that might come to haunt us in our negotiations with our design phase of MVR. So when are we going to get any kind of decree on what this is all about?
Well, they'll have an administrative draft out. They anticipate December 1st of this year, so we'll be able to get a look at what they anticipate that they changes that they're going to make, and we'll have a chance to have discussions about that. So more toward the end of the year, we'll have more information, be able to start moving forward with that. So.
And that's not going to conflict with any of our dialogue with Corolla?
No, in fact, the nutrient removal evaluation that we did operated under assumptions of worst case scenario, which is a potential for an NPDES permit. We have no indication that that's coming, but we plan for it just in case.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Richard, you were going to...
I was just going to say the same thing Jason just said, just rewinding to a year or so ago when we entered into discussions with Lahan on updating our WDR. It was all part of a bigger game plan at looking at the nutrient removal and the best process to go forward with if they were to give us a more stringent or to best meet what we already have. So it's all wrapped into one big game plan that's already in play that will be part of the design once it's issued out.
One final question, Mike.
Mm-hmm.
When we go for a review of our WDR, is there any input from any other sources like the city of Reno and Sparks and the tribe? Would they have a chance to engage in any kind of conversation about this?
I believe there is a process that Lahan has to do when they make changes. Before they implement our final draft or the final for WDR, I believe because we have downstream users, they do have a chance. I believe that happened in 2002 when we did this last time, and there was some input in that. In some ways, that kind of changed the direction from ion exchange to the DNR facility that we have existing now. So there is a opportunity for other people
Public
to have
input, yeah.
Any other questions on that portion of it? I know that was a pretty big part. Also, we attended a pre-treatment conference and workshop Clean Chem side one. We worked with maintenance to test a vacuum trailer and the feasibility of maybe replacing our vacuum truck now with a trailer, since we don't really utilize that truck as much as we need, we can do because of the plant.
How old is the truck?
I believe that is it's pretty close to 20 years, 15, 20 years old. So it's an older truck, and there's, the carb issues and stuff with California coming up. We're trying to figure out another way to be able to clean our basins. And then we also have to think in the future, are we going to need something to be able to clean those basins? So, a lot of thought that we'll be putting into that to get the right piece of equipment. Cleaned and acid washed, dewatering, centrifuge feed, and centric tanks. And other than that, let's go to, forgot I had the clicker, our flows and our limits and what our numbers were. That's just the chemical costs. Any questions for the operations department report?
We're good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, good morning. All right, for the month of May, the maintenance staff provided support for digestion improvements, nutrient removal. As you know, these are going to be going on. You'll see these for a long time to come on my list. Civic Clerk, fortunately, has come to an end, and I think we're fully implemented now at this point. So I know Rochelle is still working with the vendor to finalize that, but I think we're sitting pretty good. Network upgrade project that had some significant work done in the month of May, but we just completed it this month and got our final report. So that'll feed into a preliminary design report, which will be passed along to engineering for final design or detailed design. So for the maintenance activities for the month are notable ones. We repaired both plant waste pumps. We rebuilt a large Vaughan mixing pump for digester 33. We rebuilt the concrete base for recirculation pump, and we completed the Lucity 811 integration. So that 811 integration, that's going to help us whenever we get a call for 811. That's going to go right into our maintenance management system and create work order tickets. The intent was to get a positive response back. However, there are system limitations at this time, which we will be working with the vendor in the future to correct. So unfortunately, it can't do it for that portion of it. However, that gives us better visibility on our 811 ticketing system and just how much time we're spending on these 811s throughout the year. We completed a data forensic training with Cal OES. We updated all of our remaining PCs to prepare for the Windows 10 end of life, which that's coming. I'm sure you guys are aware of it at your districts as well, so that's a biggie. We completed the administration building badge reader installation. Thank you all for your patience trying to get that installed and getting all the new badges and everything out there. And we did a lab fume hood motor, and we're still working on some upgrades to the LED lighting in the administration building. One thing I wanted to point out, I'm sorry, I didn't keep up here. One thing I wanted to point out on the report that was sent out in the packet is I've got an open recruitments on there. I'm going to change that to unfilled positions because that's probably a little bit more accurate. With regards to the E&I technician, right now I have no intentions to rehire that position for the year as we assess the data and see what the impact is. We had a departure, and now that we're doing better tracking with our work order and workload systems, I'd like to see what the actual impact is before I rehire that position. Let the data drive what we're going to do. So with regards to the CMMS GIS technician, you'll hear more about that in the upcoming year as we work to reclassify that as well. I want to potentially look at that position and change it around a little bit. So I'll be working with HR on that to hopefully bring something to you in the future. You'll also see an additional position, SCADA specialist. That's in the new budget. So after July 1, you'll see that popping up on the list. And we're going to try and move as swiftly as possible to get that position filled. We currently have one SCADA specialist. That's really not sustainable long term. So we need to have some backup. Work orders for the month. We did decrease quite a bit on the pending work orders. That's good news. However, we do anticipate some of the annual PMs kicking back in, so that number is going to go
Do you
up.
have a slide for the work order?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I'm just not keeping up.
Thank you.
I apologize. So drop down to about 150 for the pending work orders total across all departments. The IT department will be dropping off of this list, and this will be transferring over to technical services in the new year. However, with maintenance work orders, we're sitting pretty good right now. The correctives are starting to decrease a little bit. We're hoping that that's a result of good PM work that we're doing on the plan. So,
What is PM?
I'm sorry about that. That's preventative maintenance work. So we're doing scheduled maintenance either on run hours or on a time basis on all the equipment throughout the plant, hoping to eliminate issues before we have a critical failure. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Pictures?
Oh, yes. The clicker's giving me, normally I don't do the clickers. All right. So you can see we've got one of our E&I technicians. He's doing the admin badge reader. We had to do some correction on that. That's the Vaughn mixing pump over there. I believe that's a 10-inch pump, if I remember correctly. Good sized mixing pump. Picture of the pad that we had to do in-house for the recirculation pump, and some of our staff working on that. And that's all I had for pictures.
Paul, I've got one quick question.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
The SCADA specialist,
Yes,
that seems like a very specialized specialist.
it is.
Where do you recruit from to get someone?
That's going to be a tough one. So we're going to probably reach out to a lot of different places, but we're going to hit from all sides. Most likely, Indeed has turned into one of our better recruiting tools. But BC Water Jobs is also another good one. There's multiple sources that Vicki taps into to get SCADA specialists that are out there. It is highly specialized. We're looking for people with PLC experience, SCADA experience, at varying levels. We're hoping to get somebody at the SCADA Specialist 2 level, but we also created the SCADA Specialist 1 position in case we get somebody that we can train up to a SCADA Specialist 2. So we kind of have to broaden our horizons just a little bit. We have a highly experienced person in the role right now as a SCADA Specialist 2 starting July 1 that can get that person up to speed.
Okay, thank you.
Ideal candidate was steal from somebody else or a utility like NTPUD, something like that.
Okay.
To be honest,
Notice
I don't fix that now.
Kind of feels good. doesn't it?
It's the truth though. It's such a specialized field that
Right.
that's where those guys or gals have the experience is from working in wastewater with the same software we use.
Right.
Hiring someone fresh off the street is extremely difficult because they're lucky to know what it is at that point. They know computers, but
Right.
Completely different skill set. And that's kind of why we made the separation in the first place, when drove that IT and SCADA are two completely different skills. So, maybe we get lucky and we get somebody from an integrator that has experience in our hardware. So we use Siemens hardware, so that's a little bit different too. So,
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.
Hi, good morning again, Board of Directors. So quick update on what's going on in the engineering department. So digestion improvement project we've been talking a ton about. As a matter of course, we're 30% design actually came in a little sooner than we'd anticipated. It's coming in this week. We have a pretty substantial workshop planned for that. So that'll be an all-day workshop, airing it out. Once we're done with our 30%, that's the foundation. So we want to make sure to get this correct. We're also beginning to research construction management firms because this is a major project where we're going to have someone from a consultant on site during construction to represent us. There will be an RFP for that, and Scott Fleming at one point or another will be providing recommendations to the board to solicit services. TRI Alpine Meadows, the lining project, moving along as hoped. We had originally assumed we were going to be doing bid openings on the 19th. Enough questions came in from varying contractors that we wanted to make sure we got adequate responses to them and that they were able to incorporate those responses into their proposals. So we extended that by a week. It is now the 26th.
How many contractors?
Hard to say.
Okay.
There's generals, there's firms that are specific to pipelining. It's hard to give you an actual number at this point of how many of them are serious bidders and how many of them are testing waters.
Yeah,
So,
because I believe that was one of the concerns early on was
yeah,
getting.
it's a limited pool, I'll put it that way. Yeah, there's not a ton of firms out there that do that level of work on that diameter of pipe.
How many people showed up for the sidewalk?
I believe we had 15 attendees from varying firms, assumptions that some of them were general, some of them were subs, and some of them were pipelining specific.
Did the company that did our work at the River Ranch show up for this sidewalk?
I don't believe so. So again, the in place, the cured in place piping is a really specific kind of a subset of pipe rehab, and especially at this diameter pipe. So it's not likely because I think that was a smaller diameter pipe, but I could be wrong. It might be 24 at that point too. But I don't know for sure, Dale, is the short answer.
Okay, so what we're dealing with here, Jason, is are we going to have a bypass
Yes,
while this happens?
yes, we are.
And where is that bypass going to run? Is it going to run along the highway? Is it going to run along the river? Or
It's going to run along the bike path.
bike path?
Yeah, so we're doing a lining between manholes 33 and 35, which is just between Olympic and Alpine, and we're going to bypass from 32 to 36. And we're lucky in some respects that the trail has that level of accessibility for those manholes, so there'll be redundant bypassing along that portion of the trail. Lots of coordination with Caltrans, Tahoe City. There's a lot of moving pieces. So
So when you say it's going to run along the bike path, it's not going to be on the bike path, is it?
in some areas, it might have to be.
It
Yes.
will be on the bike path. I
Yes.
see.
The priority right now is to ensure as minimal bike path closure as possible. We don't want to have, the whole thing closed for weeks on end. So we've worked with TCPUD to ensure that they're going to get a good plan, a bike path closure management plan from the contractor so that they can anticipate when there's going to be impacts to the trail. But the mantra has been open whenever possible. So that will likely mean there could be active bypassing operations going, and there is still a lane of bike path. And that's one of the reasons we want to have one of the other aspects of this. We are seeking assistance from the design consultant for engineering services during construction. We would like them to provide a level of assurance that this is all being managed. So we're going to get construction management firm on site to represent us, because there's potential for night work, there's a potential for complications with the closure plan. There's also a requirement that we provide shuttling. In the event that there is a bike path closure, we have an obligation to provide shuttling. We will not be doing that shuttling ourselves. A firm will be handling that, and the contractor will be managing that. And this requirement is 24/7. So even if we do night work, say we know the trail is going to be closed between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., there's still a requirement that we have shuttling service available.
And so when we install this bypass, are we going to be doing the coupling of the pipe and
Agency staff?
is the agency going to be doing that, or we got a contractor to do that?
Yeah, the contractor is responsible for managing the bypass. It'll likely be one of the larger subcontractors. There's only a couple that do bypasses like that. And I mean, bypasses are pretty common. That the logistics of the bypass, where the pipe is going to lay, what level of pipe closure we're going to use while they're heat fusing the pipe, all that stuff has been kind of the challenge. But as far as the bypass itself, I mean, you move sewage from one sewer to another, or from one manhole to another, and it's pretty straightforward.
I need to barrage you with questions.
No, you're fine, please.
But what is going to be the lineal feet of the bypass when it's all set up?
It's going to be over 3,000 feet. We are lining about 1,800 feet of sewer, but the bypass, because it is one above and one below the project, will be closer to 3,300 feet of bypass.
And can you refresh the projected timeframe dates?
Yeah, we're starting the day after Labor Day because that's when the traffic on the bike path drops a lot, and the anticipated closure is before the end of October.
It's tricky. Ironically, several of the short-term rentals in my neighborhood, in their book of things to do in Tahoe, that's a big thing for them to do.
Yes, and again, the Caltrans has right of way, and they deemed that as a transportation corridor. It's not just a recreational bike path.
Right.
So we have to treat it as if we were doing a legitimate road closure. So yeah, I mean, we're working through it. We're happy with the consultants. They're doing good work on it. It's a very challenging balance of being very prescriptive with the design versus very needs-based, allowing the contractor to make up their minds, because the less clarity you give the contractor, the more opportunity they have to do what they need to do, but the more difficult it becomes for them to estimate the proposal. So there's a very challenging balance with this. So that's going to be the exciting thing of the summer. Nutrient Removal Improvements Project, which you'll hear us intermittently probably call it DMBR project. Apologize for that. We love our acronyms. So we are currently live with a request for proposals on that final design. Scott has been doing the legwork of making sure that consultants are aware that the RFP is there. We've had several requests, copies of the RFP. The study that we finished last year is available for download, so we're hopeful that we'll get a lot of interest. We've got a site walk today, later, it's a mandatory pre-proposal meeting, so everyone that wants to propose must show up, so they'll be here today. We'll know a lot more after that. And we'll be reviewing those proposals in a panel format with staff and the agency to make a selection. We'll bring that selection to the board. We're aiming for having a proposal for final design in September. Digital scanning is something Liz had mentioned. Living in the operating budget, we had made the decision to do digital scanning in one shot rather than in segments like we had done it historically. Ended up giving us a pretty substantial cost savings. So that was a big win. But you're only going to hear about this every 3 years now instead of every year. So that's something we're just going to have to be aware of. But that should start in July. Laboratory activities. So we had our biennial lab assessment 2 months ago, I believe it was. The lab is doing great, made tremendous improvements over the last time we had an assessment. Really proud of Kristen. She's done a great job. The reason you see completed and pending being the same is because there's a whole process. When you have an identified finding as part of an assessment, you have to provide proposed corrective action. You have a 30-day window for that to be accepted. If they accept it, then you have a period of time to implement that corrective action. So it's this back and forth that can result in 3 months or so of back and forth. So she has given them proposed corrective action. She's now waiting on the next 30-day window to get response back from them. It's not tremendously unlikely that there will be a please reform this, and then the 30-day window starts again. So it's a great process. It is tremendously better than what we used to have, which was the state would come in and there'd be some level of arbitrary, we don't like this, we do like that. The way we do it through a third-party assessor. They don't work for us. They don't work for the state. They work for eLab. So they're I guess, disinterested third party. And they come in and they just read the regulation the way it writes. And if you are varying from it in any courses, here's how, and here's what you need to do. So it's actually, I feel like it's been a very positive change for the laboratory community. This has been, I think, the third year now we've been living in the new regulatory environment. So, but yeah, definitely positive change. And then we are identifying some improvements for the lab. One of these days, if you guys get an opportunity, I can have Kristen show you around the lab a little bit. We're very proud of our lab. We do a lot with a very small space, but it needs some repairs. And if we were to build a new lab today, it would not be in a shared space with an administrative facility, and it would not be, accessible from the rest of the plant. So we're going to look at, between now and when the new facility is built, which will include a new laboratory facility, what can we do in the interim to make that a more livable space for the employees that are in there using that space? And so we've got a little money set aside for that. You probably saw it in the budget. It's a complete guess at this point. We have to. It's like tearing wallpaper off of a 18th century house. You identify that there's more problems than you realized. So public outreach. We provided a tour. And we also provided a tour to President Wilson for the Digestion Improvements Project area, the scope. Just open invitation anytime anyone wants to better explore, better understand the scope of any of these projects. More than welcome, let us know. Scott loves to give tours, so we'll sign him up for that. We also participated in the Trucking Day cleanup right around here. That was a lot of fun. Went over and had pizza with everyone. Thanks to the town and thanks to the airport for making that possible. And then we had representation at the exposition on the following Saturday, and we got a pretty good turnout. Got a lot of interested people. That's just a call out to the folks that volunteer on that team. We got a team of 7 or 8 people together that rotate and volunteer to man those booths, and it's been a really good experience. A lot of people coming up. First couple that we did, 2 or 3 events, people are, who are you now? Because we love acronyms again. And it's been a really good showing. A lot of people really interested and a lot of positive interaction. So we'll continue that. Other than that, any questions?
I have one. Could you go back a slide? Yes. So on the Digestion Improvements Project, you said several workshops and site visits are occurring. For whom?
Between the consultant and staff.
And I would just say, regarding the tours, I had a question for the boilers, and just visually, I couldn't, the MBR illustrations and stuff, I could not figure out where they were going. And doing that tour, 2 things. One is that the site where they're going to go makes a lot of sense. And it also really refreshed, and I'd forgotten this from my first tour, that we have some, I would almost say, ancient things working in this system. You guys have all heard me refer to it as like looking at pumps and piping out of the Titanic. And if you haven't taken the tour, I would really encourage to see where that system's going to work. And it really helped. And I didn't get Scott, but I got Jason and Greg, and they both did a good job as well.
Don't worry, we'll make sure you get Scott.
Okay, so you got an expedited tour. Well said. Thank you, Jason.
You have a problem. Okay.
Still good morning. We are not at good afternoon yet, so that's progress. Let's talk about the administrative department report. So for risk and safety, I usually highlight what the safety topic of the month was. Having a vacant safety officer has brought to my attention I'm not very good at safety training myself. So we're working to bridge that gap, catch up on any training, and that position will be open in the next 2 weeks as soon as I finalize all of the documents in my email to get it posted. For finance, the biggest thing that I want to tout here for finance is that we completed the interim audit for FY25. When I came here last year, we did interim audit after the entire fiscal year was over. That was surprising to me. And so we've been able to back up that timeline, and I'm still working to deliver the audit at the end of the calendar year instead of rolling into the next year. So backing this up has tremendously helped that timeline. The other thing worth noting for training is that there was accelerating your ACFR, the ACFR, another acronym, right? It's our annual comprehensive financial report. It is an award, so of course I do want to be competitive and get it. It's a great document that speaks to rating agencies, it speaks to the public. We're ripe to have one. It embeds our audit as well as maybe some information from the CIP, general economics. It will be a great document. I was very happy that staff wanted to participate in training to learn how to do it. We also manage through our annual accounting update. It's super smooth still for that one. For purchasing and general administration, again, overall, we paid all of the vendors, we paid all of our employees, we took care of all of our administrative responsibilities, as well as serving at the pleasure of the board and the general manager and responding to those requests. For billing and customer service, we already talked about the revenues that we saw for it. The excitement here is that there were 2 commercial inspections, and I love a good picture from admin because what we do never results in a picture. So you can see the 2 places that Philip headed out to do inspections for us. And that's all I have for admin. Any questions? Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, Liz.
that's an old building.
Beautiful.
So I guess I'm up.
Yes, you are.
Not a whole lot, kind of winding down. We had our, all our routine meetings, ad hoc land use, board meetings, finance committee. We did do a surplus land presentation. Michael already mentioned the pre-treatment conference workshop that him and Greg went to, and Jason mentioned public outreach of Truckee Day, as well as the tours. Civic Plus had mentioned continues to progress and is progressing into another avenue of doing our permit portal through that. Other than that, working on transitioning myself out with the regulatory agency, letting them know that there's going to be an interim in place, and just making sure none of those things fall through the cracks. We'll have Jason do the board meeting next month as I'll be out, but then back in office the following weeks until August. So,
Richard, the presentation of the North Tahoe PUD board, what, did you get any feedback on that?
that's an error. It was not North Tahoe, but we did Olympic Valley.
Oh. Yeah, I don't care if they give us feedback or not.
Well,
I'd be curious what their feedback was. Maybe after the meeting.
It's that's what.
I can tell you what our feedback was because we had the presentation and it's a wait and see kind of attitude,
Got it.
That's about it, I mean, this is so new on the horizon, but I really think that it's going to start taking up a lot of our time at the board level. I think it's also going to take a lot of time at the staff level, and I'm hoping that we put the plant expansion in NBR first and deal with the surplus land so I know it's something we have to deal with, but I hope it doesn't consume us. It's been my fear and my thoughts when we first started entering into this dialogue about surplus land. This could turn into a real consuming issue that we're opening the door to. So let's put MBR first. We've got that ancient 25-year-old car that we've been driving for 50 years. And we got to take this step sooner than later because as we move on, every year it's going to get more expensive and more expensive. And when we talk about a $300 billion project, I think we're cheating ourselves because it's going to be more than that. And it makes me nervous to think that, we're limping along with a 50-year-old piece of equipment. Nothing's forever. And, I'd like to see this MBR stay on the front burner and, move it forward because, we need it badly. Badly.
So another question, Richard, the folks that are doing the, organizing the music over at the sports park, did they hit us up yet? Because I remember last year, there were some approvals we had to provide related to their use of Thorder Drive, the portion of it that we own.
If they have reached out, we've gotten one email from them so far.
I know they're actively starting to promote that. I think they went in front of the TSD board a couple of months ago, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe through. Again, so I just want to make sure they're not missing a step.
No.
Oh, they have. Maybe they don't need to. I know, but I know last year they.
No, we said they had to.
Yeah.
I remember that.
The other percentage.
I don't know.
There's all tickets. So.
They are. Right now, they came back to us, but they did.
Yeah, we received one. We met with Tykert the other day, just kind of a routine meeting we had with them, maintain the relationship. We make sure they were aware again that they intend to do it, as well as the gravel race that's coming up.
Okay.
More to come.
What can you share what the gravel race is?
It's the Truckee gravel race. They come down the bike path and they cut across just outside the gate and then hop on Butterfield up to Jordan and then go down Jordan to the park. So we issue them a right of entry every year. Michael staff opens the gate so they can put their first aid people down and everything. And then we've tried to be proactive to let Tykert know that they're doing this kind of stuff, just because if they're running trucks at the same time, they'll spread the word. All the trucks, let them know there's going to be an event, so watch for pedestrians or cyclists.
Bert, any comments or final questions?
No comments.
Catherine?
No.
Well, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I would move to adjourn the meeting. Then there's barbecue at noon. Starting.
Yes.
Food truck coming or?
Catering by Smokies Kitchen.
Barbecue.
Second,
by Director Cox. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Richard, best of luck.
yeah, best of luck. Rick.